Hello everybody and welcome to Blakademik Live. Apologies for the delay in our starting this evening. Thank you for bearing with us. Thanks for coming out tonight. I know it's really cold, so we really appreciate it. You've got your hats on still and gloves. I know it's really cold, so I appreciate you coming out tonight. Before we get underway, just to note that we are streaming live across our LinkedIn and our YouTube channel, so big up all of our subscribers and followers across those platforms. We will be taking questions later on. Anybody's got any questions, send them into the live chat and I will get them via my team, and we'll get to those a bit later on today. I'm looking forward to today's discussion, which is going to be around how to improve your mental health and well-being in 2022. And I'm really hoping, and I'm pretty confident that my panelists today can help us not only work out how we can have a more positive mindset, how we can be more productive, but also tangible things we can take away from here tonight, things we can do to make those marginal gains, to have a better mindset and be a lot more positive. My name is Jordan, by the way, my man is there, and welcome to the Curtain Club. This is a fantastic members club. Anybody wants to hear more information about it, Sean in the pretty pink jumper at the back will happily speak to you more about this fantastic venue and what they do here. All right, so as I mentioned, tonight's title is How to Improve Your Mental Health and Well-Being. It's the start of the year-ish, and I'm keen for my panelists here to help you guys, as I mentioned, leave here with real practical things that you can all do to make that small difference in your mindset. So let me intro my guests here today. I'll start off with, to my right, Mr. Alex Holmes, who's a qualified mental health practitioner and author of the book Time to Talk. Some love please for Alex. Thank you. To my immediate left, I'm joined by Emily Lewis, who's a therapist and the founder of I Found Me Therapeutic Counselling. Some love for Emily, please. And finally, I'm joined by far left here by Paul Otote, who's also a qualified herbalist, nutritionist, and an author and an entrepreneur as well. Some love for him too, please. So a couple of housekeeping notes, guys. The toilet is on the left-hand side over there. Can we please have mobile phones on silent, or even better, turned off, factoring in what we're talking about here today. Just tune out for an hour from your phone, it's all good. And a shout out to our website, blakademik.com, where you can see all of our fantastic content and the work that Blakademik does. If you are on social media, check out our socials as well. We're across Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well. So go and check those out later on today. All right. I will take questions in the latter part of this discussion, so anything you've got in your head, keep in your head for now, and I promise I'll get to you ASAP. I'm going to kick off though by asking a question to my panelists that I now ask with intention for about a year now. When I ask this question, I really mean it. Very simple one. How are you? Just how are you? We'll start with you, Alex. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
How was your day?
It was good. I went to the Harry Potter studios up in Watford.
Dope.
Yeah, so I was tapping into my inner child, running around diagonally, doing foolishness. But yeah, it was good. It was good. So I'm feeling relaxed. I'm feeling connected.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I had to rush in to get here in the cold, but it's cool.
But you're here.
Yeah,
and that's what matters.
Yeah,
Thank you. Emily, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I've been working today, so I've come from work, but today I work in a school, working with lovely little children who have a lot of energy. And I don't need to go to the gym because they play football, they run around in circles and demand that I run around with them. So yeah, I've had a fun day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Paul, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Interesting day actually. So I have like a herbal tea product that launched in Selfridges last year. So I was saying to Alex before that when we launched, we had like 2 products in like a small corner. Everyone just walked past, you can't see it. But luckily, we were able to kind of sell out and keep momentum going. Now they've given us like a whole sort of section.
Come on, man. Celebrate the wins.
What's it called?
Oh, it's called Herbie Box, small plug. But today we're doing like tea tasting in store. So I was there from I think 10 till 5.
Wow.
So just kind of like getting closer to people. Yeah, I would say mash up, fueled by herbs.
Okay, of course.
So yeah, it was a good day, just kind of like connecting with people and letting people know the story behind the company.
Nice.
So,
so people can get an idea of what you guys actually do. Just briefly explain to our audience and everyone watching at home what it is that you do, and just a brief synopsis of your mental health and well-being journey. I'll start with you, Emily.
Oh, I thought he was going on.
No, I'll mix it up.
All right. Gosh, okay.
Just before we start, sorry.
Yeah.
We've got some guests that I can see hovering in the background, shy to come in and join us. Don't be shy. Although now everyone's watching them, so they're going to be really
I can hear them laughing now.
Come through. You did. Alex?
Yeah, with me, I worked as a journalist for 5 years. That's how I met you. And I did some lifestyle reporting, and I was covering loads of different things. And while I was working in journalism, I had like deep mental health issues with a lot of stress and inferiority complex, and kind of being feeling like I was being treated a particular way because I was black in those spaces, in those really traditional 200-year-old companies that like have a particular culture, and you feel like you're going through it alone. So and then you start to feel paranoid. You don't feel like you can talk about it. People start to dismiss those sorts of things. So I had my own stuff that I was going through, and yeah, I was that black guy who's like, I'm not going to go to a therapist. I don't want to have to do it. I tried calling the council, and they sent me this stress and anxiety course, and I was like, I'm not trying to do that. And then my friend kind of told me that, oh, you need to go to therapy, and actually like gave me a name, a number, and location, which is around the corner as well actually. And I went, and when I went, it was like so much came up. It was there were traumatic things that had happened, there were family things, all of that stuff came up. But over time, I started looking at mental health from the lens of just, because I talk a lot about books but also masculinity as well, so I started looking at those two things and seeing how they kind of come together. So I started doing a lot of reading around masculinity, where that came from, and the situations that a lot of men go through and experiences, and why men don't talk. People, if you say, oh, men don't talk, men do. I found it's just that, it's who's willing to listen and who's willing to hear them, what they're saying. And so then 2020, I wrote my book, Time to Talk, and kind of relaunched my podcast, which was Time to Talk, and started having these conversations. And then, I decided that I wanted to train more in this. So I went mental health first aid. I wanted to get the focus and the vocab and the definitions and things. Then I did health coaching because I wanted to know what stress was and understand that. Then I figured it wasn't going far enough, so now I'm training as a psychotherapist as well. So I'm kind of putting it all together and working towards doing something. But my thing at the minute, thank you, but my thing at the minute is suicide prevention, because I feel like whenever we talk about it at the point of crisis. We don't talk about what leads up to it, the depression, the kind of racial trauma, especially for black men, then the patriarchal trauma for men in general. The figures keep going up, and they're really confusing for a lot of the time, and I'm hearing the same stats over and over again. And so I'm looking deeper into that as to kind of why that is a very specific sort of trauma and understanding when it comes to mental health and men, and what that looks like. Because once we do that, we then help women, and we then help children and protect everybody. But if we don't do that, then a lot of people fall through the cracks.
I want to, in particular, over the course of this discussion, touch on a few key areas. One being work, the workplace. One being sleep. Another one being screen time and social media. And we're going to go through all those things and more over the course of this session. So as we appear to be entering a new world, and I say new world because I don't think we're returning to normal. I think we're now moving in this, hopefully, post-pandemic time where we're going into a new world, and we learn to live with the virus. I want to know from the three of you, what are the red flags that you have seen in people that are concerning you most, and how do people undo that? Let me start with you again, Emily.
Okay. I'm going to start with someone else next time, right? Okay. With me, I can give you an answer through my practice. So over the last 2 years of the pandemic, we have had like an influx of referrals that have come through, and a lot of it has been to do with how the pandemic has impacted individuals, how it's impacted families and so on. And what I've noticed is when you say red flags, it's about loneliness. It's about not understanding what's going on. There's no clarity there. There's fear. There's fear. Everyone is scared about what's happening. If you don't understand something, and you're seeking to find out what's going on, but you don't know, and no one has any answers. So when you say about noticing the early signs of suicide, when it comes to the loneliness, a lot of people have been talking about suicide, been talking about ending their life, been saying they don't need to be here anymore. And it's about noticing those things and bringing those people to have conversations and to be able to speak about it, because it has led to them then having those suicidal thoughts and then planning, and then some people actually taking their lives. Another red flag I would say I've noticed is to do with people getting sick. People are scared to get sick now. They're scared to have a cold. They're scared to go to the hospital. And I would say, especially in the Black community, a lot of them are saying that, I think everybody knows there was the scare of everyone saying that because they were offering the vaccine and everything to elderly and the BAME community, that everyone was like, well, they're trying to kill us off. And there is that, is it or isn't it, amongst the community.
The distrust.
But at the same time, it's about giving people information, letting them know what it's about, educating them about the vaccine, educating them about if they do take it, this is what it looks like. If you don't take it, this is what it looks like. Giving them options, giving them choice, and giving choice back to people. Because I think when people don't have any control, that's where they get scared. And that's where it leads to the thoughts of, ending their life and so on, and the development of mental health, which we've noticed so much. We've had children coming through with psychosis because they're just worried. Their parents are worried. They see their parents go through stuff, and then they're mirroring that behavior. So there's a lot of it. We're working with a lot of families at the moment who are coming through the other side. But there's a lot of red flags.
And what about you, Alex? What have you seen, particularly in the last 2.5, 3 years, the red flags that you've seen in people that have bothered you most?
Lack of community-centered, trying to find the right words to, care. Lack of community-centered care. I think that we're not caring about one another. I think we had at one point in 2020, we had a moment where everybody came outside and looked at their street and saw their neighbours. Well, for me anyway, I came outside and I've been on my street for 20 odd years, and I looked at my neighbours, and we all were doing the same thing, obviously clapping for the NHS, and it became a thing. There was rum punch, there was banquet, there was band. Don't worry about it. It's a party.
I need to go live there.
It became a thing. There was bangor drums. It was just it was a party. It was a vibe. Yeah. So everyone kind of did that, and getting to know each other, starting to talk to one another, and then it was this whole kind of mandate of, if you see people coming in and out of other people's houses, tell on them and do all of this stuff. And it kind of brought the distrust back to the street, and I feel like there was an opportunity there for us to really connect with the elderly people on our street, the people that were less privileged, the people that you hadn't seen. You see people, I haven't seen this person in a while, let me go and see you there. So lack of community care is one thing. And the big health anxieties, again, when is a hay fever sneeze, when is a cold, a cold, when is that you sneeze outside and somebody looks at you.
And that isolation, isn't it? Because you sneeze or you cough, and then next minute, all eyes
everyone's
are
looking at you this way, and you're like, it's a cold. But, and you're kind of afraid to do that, and you don't really know.
I've seen some people on the bus fighting to keep their sneezes and coughs in. It's really fun. Shouldn't laugh. I've seen just sneeze.
I've done it before.
It's okay. And then, but it's just one of those things. Now everybody's scared to do everything. Everybody's even in the beginning when people were buying up all the tissue, toilet paper, but nobody's buying cleaning products. But everybody's buying tissues and running around. It was just, I just saw it as just chaos. And then, people were kind of conflating things and starting to really say, oh yeah, you know, because of lockdowns, the suicides are going up, the mental health, but they weren't giving money to mental health practitioners. They weren't supporting the NHS with pay, right? They froze all of their pay. They did all of this stuff. So yeah, that's the institutional distrust there. So yeah, I'm just seeing loads of different bits and pieces all over the place that just don't make sense. Which is why Paul's probably the best person to come.
Well, I'm going to come to you next, because I want to come to a solution. So first of all, what are you seeing, or what have you seen over the last couple of years that has concerned you in how people are talking, you know, what you think they're thinking, their mentalities, and how do we readdress that? How do we now, as we hopefully are on the stretch now to coming out of this lockdown, what are the things you would suggest need to be done to ensure that we can undo that a lot of that, what Alex just said there?
Cool. In that.
There's a lot there.
I'll start with, I guess, things from my personal life and things that I've noticed around me. Right. I think one of the important things, or one of the earlier signs that I realized, and I've been a victim to this too, is that sometimes what we truly feel, we show the opposite. So I'll give you an example. I might have a friend, right, who, generally speaking, on social media, it's just normal. They post their life. Then all of a sudden, now they're posting all these inspirational quotes, right? And when I was going through, like, after I lost my brother and all these things, I was searching for inspiration, or searching for this new normal, in a sense. And that's why I started learning all these inspirational quotes. So sometimes I see that and I'll be like, okay, this person might be going through things. Because if you're happy and you're just normal, you just live. That makes sense. With some people, that could be a red flag. So that's what I've seen sometimes in people around me. And then there's certain people who tend to be the person that always checks up on their friends. With some of these people, sometimes they're the last to be checked up on, right? And when you realize or understand what a lack of care is, you want to care more for people. Does that make sense? So sometimes those people might be even susceptible to certain things. So that could be a sign in itself. Either them going quiet or them being more proactive with it, you know? Those are the two, I guess, key things. It's looking at, I guess, change in behavior. So I speak about myself sometimes, but there's certain things that I'm not okay speaking with yet. But change behavior, you know, people getting a bit more prone to anger. You're with your friend, you normally busting jokes about certain things. Now they're a bit more tight about it. What do you mean by that? Do you know what I mean? Normal human reaction is to, I guess, match energy. Yeah, match energy, but it's understanding, asking the questions, okay, what is changing within them to make them feel more, you know, are they more stressed? Like, what's going on? Let's talk. You know what I mean? You might even buy them Alex's book, you know. And these are some of the cool things that I've seen, especially with social media now. It's like sometimes we try to overcompensate to some extent, whether it's posting too much, trying to be happy. Like, what is the truth behind these things? And I think sometimes when we see these changing behaviors, it's just a phone call, not text. So like, when I lost my brother and I lost my grandma in the space of like 3 weeks, and what I did straight away was like, I'm gonna work more, you know. I was posting every day on social media, and what happened off the back of that is people just assumed Paul's okay, right? I barely got calls, I barely got, Paul, you good? Like, do you know what I mean?
But you were overcompensating. Yeah,
overcompensating to some extent. It's like, look, I'm gonna, instead of me, I guess, dealing with certain things, I'm gonna go the opposite way to some extent. So the reason why I say that is these are all signs or red flags within themselves.
Sure.
And sometimes what people do need is just somebody who understands. It's not like you've got the solutions. It's not like, like even sometimes I just pay for therapy for people, man. Just for the first month, go check it. Go for the first week or the first session, go check it out. Like even one of my boxes, the tea boxes, one of them is named after my brother, Zero Box, and 10% of that goes to support mental wellness and stuff like that. So anything that you can do and notice changes in behavior, and don't take it personally. But if someone's going quiet, it's not like, oh, if they're not hollering at me, I'm not hollering at them. That's
Yeah.
that's
There
a
might be a
backwards.
reason.
yeah.
It's a mad mentality.
I've heard that so many times.
Yeah. But
So many
that's
times.
us thinking we're the center of everything, you know, to some extent. So it's times like that, it's time to go harder to make sure everyone around you is okay.
It's all right.
But yeah, those are my solutions and thoughts.
No, I hear that. Alex, you mentioned earlier on therapy, that you've been to therapy and still going to therapy. Do you think everyone needs therapy, and how would going to therapy help people?
No, not everybody needs it. It's not always good for some people, but I do think it's a valuable resource, especially if there are questions that you need answering about yourself and about kind of where you're at. Because a lot of the stuff that we're suppressing, we kind of do it subconsciously by like our upbringing, our environments, school, your sibling order, and the like. So I'd say not everybody needs it necessarily, but I do think it's a great resource to have, especially if you're going through a process of self-development, if you want to know more about yourself, because we have deep internal worlds. There's so much that goes on every day. One look that we get that we probably just absorbed, but we don't recognize. You know, it's like what Paul said, in terms of matching energy. Somebody might say something, and then you're reacting up here, and you have no idea why. I had to diffuse a situation the other day because I was trying to be level with somebody, and then they were up here, and I was kind of felt myself reaching up here with them, and I was like, actually, no, let's bring it down here. And to the end, it kind of like all leveled out. But that took a lot out of me, and that's my own stuff is that these things take a lot out of me, so I need to go and recharge and bring myself back to that. But you don't know sometimes, and I think it's just all about how we want to go and develop ourselves. What was your second question? That the roots to it?
Well, yeah, I want to know, do you think everybody needs it, and how does it help?
Yeah. So it helps personal discovery, reflection. If you find yourself in similar situations all the time, it might be good to go and get some therapy, to get some self-reflection to figure out what those things are. Consistently having communication problems, consistently relationship problems, consistently things at work, like all of these things. Yeah, I think then it'll be a process to go do that.
Emily, I hear the phrase mental health crisis often. I hear that at the time when I know more people now in my circles that are going to therapy more than ever. Do you think that is a fair description of what's going on, if indeed what I'm seeing is true, in that more and more people are going to therapy? And do you think that more people are going to therapy? Is that true, or are we just talking about those who go to therapy full stop more?
I think more people are going to therapy, and I think the reason behind that is because it's more acceptable now, almost fashionable, like a trend. But saying that, I see that as a good thing, because then people are utilizing the service. The same way we need to go to the doctors if we're feeling unwell, the same way we need to go to the dentist if there's something wrong with our teeth. Our mind and our body and our soul are very important. And therapy supports that. It helps with our growth, it helps with our understanding, it helps us to understand who we are, our behaviors, our beliefs. It allows us to look at our self-worth. It helps with self-esteem, confidence, relationships. There's so much that it is supporting and that we need. So I will say I do feel that I feel everyone should have an experience of therapy. But there's so many variants to it that you can explore. There's ones where you can do individually by yourself at home. There's group therapy. There's one-to-one therapy, and then in the one-to-one therapy, there's so many different modalities as well. So everyone can touch on it. I mean, I do play therapy, and when I mention to people that I do play therapy with adults, they're like, what, really? And when I explain it to them, the adults engrossed in it more than the children. They got the Lego and they're doing the drawings and everything, and they're getting excited, and I have all these balls that I throw on the floor, and you want to see. It's just, like you said, the inner child comes out, and they're able to explore things that they didn't even realize was within them. They can get to identify things that have been holding them back or been barriers in their life. So it's I feel it's needed.
And you said something earlier on that you don't necessarily charge everybody that comes to your business, because there'll be some people that will like the idea of going to therapy and may think they need therapy, but it can be expensive. Not everybody has the time in their week. If you've got 2, 3, 4 kids, you work in 2, 3 jobs, you might have the time to go to therapy or the money. What can those people do? What can those people who need it and want it, but just in their calendar of the week, just literally have no time or the finances to go and get therapy?
Well, first of all, they can
They
utilize
can come to you.
So they can come to my practice. Like I said, there's various ways of doing it. We do telephone counselling, we do online via Zoom or Teams, whichever they're comfortable with. We come to your home even, we go into schools. There's so many various ways of doing it in regards to time. But there's a lot of people who I work with who, they do say, I work 24/7, I don't have the time. And it's about giving them the methods and the tools in order that they can utilize them themselves. I do a new venture that I've started last month called Meditative Aromatherapy. It's about teaching people about the essential oils, how they can use them at home, how they can just have a simple candle burner from Poundland, and just get the oils for £1 as well. And just by choosing the right ones, they can support their sleep, they can relieve stress, they can energize, and you can do it in your own home. And it's about giving them tips and tools about doing guided meditation. So we have a session with them. We have a location where they come and they can do it, and we support sleep or migraines and stuff like that. But then they take away that knowledge and they're able to do it in their own time. I was having a conversation with my mum earlier about just doing everyday practices. You get up in the morning, everybody either has a shower or a bath or something. You go and have your bath and you meditate. You use certain oils or certain soaps which are scented in a certain way, which can either energize you or relax you and so on. And it's about the people who are saying they don't have time. You can create time, because the mundane things that we do every day, you can utilize those times and give yourself a bit of meditation, give yourself some healing. There's so many ways of practicing good mental health.
Paul, Emily mentioned sleep there. I know you know quite a bit about sleep and why it's important that people get into better sleeping habits. Just talk to us a little bit about why you think it is important and what are the benefits that having a better sleeping pattern can do to you and your mood and your mentality and being more productive.
Sure. It's a good way to answer this. Like we all have like our own clock to some extent, right? Even our rhythm of our heartbeat, it's like somewhat unique to us. So for us to kind of be in line or in tune with ourselves, the foundation of that is rest. So the time when the mind is clearing, is creating or forming or solidifying new memories, it's regenerating itself, it's during sleep, right? There's everything in nature to some extent has its season, right? Night, day, autumn, winter. And sleep is such an important time for your mental health, right? Because a lot of our feelings, and maybe you can attest more to this, a lot of how we feel sometimes is due in part to hormones or even brain hormones like neurotransmitters, right? Whether it's like high levels of dopamine or serotonin in terms of like happiness, right? These hormones get produced at different points during the day. Some peak at night. So as this lean, let's say melatonin is rising through towards the night time, like when it's time for you to go to bed. If you don't sleep by that point, or you don't sleep when the time is right for you, the growth hormone, the reduction in cortisol from the body, reducing stress hormone, your balancing of estrogen, things like that. So that comes out for some people, stress, breakup, for some people period pain, cramps. So sleep, it's like you can't even scratch the surface how important sleep is, right? Even though we all lack or we slack on sleep sometimes, I know I'm guilty of this myself, but the importance of it, I can't stress it enough, of sleeping the right time for long enough. So it says you should sleep around 7 hours, right? 7 hours. And sometimes what I've realized as well is when you sleep is as important as how long you sleep for. So like if you're sleeping before, let's say 11 o'clock, right? And you're sleeping through a few of your cycles, you're getting a similar benefit, or you'll get more benefit than someone who sleeps around 2 o'clock to 10 p.m., to 10 a.m. because of when the sun goes up or when the sun goes down, because your body is in line with what goes on outside. The sun in the morning is signaling to your body, okay, it's time to wake up, it's time to start reducing cortisol levels, it's time to get you active and out, right? And it's balancing or re-syncing your circadian rhythm. And that's why you might feel issues when you travel to different time zones, because the sun is different from what you're used to. That's jet lag. So I hope that answers the question, but I can't stress how important sleep is. And I guess over time, or during the course of our conversation, we'll go over some tips and stuff like that to help you improve your sleep quantity and quality.
It's all holistic, isn't it? It's like if you're you're not physically sleeping, because it's about the quality of sleep as well, isn't it? Then you're going to be you're not going to be restful the next day. So it's going to make you more anxious.
It's a spiral.
Irritated.
So your nervous system is alert, and it's just like overdrive. So that's
There's this thing that I educate about sometimes, right? And it's interesting to know, right? It's like 2 spirals. You know, like that thing you used to have in McDonald's where you put the £1 in, or 1p.
£1.
You're generous. You get it. You know, that's why I don't eat breakfast. Nah, the point I'm saying is like that spiral. So let's say you have a few days of no sleep, right? So you're a bit more alert in the sense of like you're more stressed. You're having more of these fight or flight responses, and because of that, your digestion's out of whack. Because when you're stressed out, your digestive system shuts down. Yeah. Right. Off the back of that, you're getting more stressed because like you're not going to the toilet as much. So that spiral, you know, then it impacts your mental health because you're not feeling good. You might start breaking out. You know, your hair might start falling out because your hormones are out of whack. That spiral is what a lot of people are on, right? And sometimes the foundation or the basis of that is the basics: sleep, diet, nutrition, rest, and just love, or being around people that you love, or community, as you spoke about before. So there's also a positive spiral, which is the complete opposite of that. You start with your foundations, you feel good about it. You feel good, so at work you start operating at a bit of a higher frequency, you're performing better. Your boss now says, oh, well done. You feel good about that. So that is like a more positive spiral that reinforces your good behaviors. And now instead of going down, you're going up. So now you're more motivated because of your hormones, or your reward centers are giving you this hit because you're achieving things. So I guess the point there is it's the basic things that take us towards either a positive spiral or a negative spiral. And I think that image in our mind helps us break away from it if we're going in one way we don't like.
That's what we base our stuff on as well, the more holistic side of things. Because when we have our initial consultation, the first things we ask about is sleep, diet, you know, surroundings, environment.
You can't fast track, you know.
Yeah. So and then when you ask that and they tell you, and oh well, how did you know? And then we have the conversation about that they're all connected. Yeah. So 100%. Yeah.
Connected, you know.
You turn up in the therapy chair looking all kind of like, like, have you slept?
Well, let's start with that. You know, £50.
How was your night?
The first thing she asked me, she's like, what's going on? I'm like, what do you mean what's going on? And I'm like, I haven't slept properly. She's like, I know where this is going. And then it's just erraticness all the way through the session. So, you know.
Let's talk about social media now, because many people will be on social media, many aren't. I'm keen to find out, I mean, it's as big as it's ever been, I would say. But do you think it's harder to be heard when you need to reach out for help? Or is social media actually the antidote to mental health crisis, in that you've never had as many outlets to talk about how you feel and to reach out and to see how other people are living their lives, and maybe I'm not the only person going through this because so-and-so posted something, and actually I feel better now because I know now that he or she's going through a similar thing.
And this is to me.
This is to you.
At me, right?
I'm looking at you.
I guess there's a case for and against socials. I guess the case for is obviously so that you can kind of keep abreast of what's going on, you can feel connected to community, you can grow, you can learn things, you can adapt to it with different stuff. And the con is kind of what Paul mentioned earlier. It's like people tend to assume you're okay in a particular way. People assume things. They don't reach out as much, say, because if you're showing that you're good, then they're going to do that. It inspires feelings of envy and jealousy. So like inadequacy of self. There's so many different areas. I think that it's about understanding that we are ultimately in control of what we do. But I think that it's kind of skewed itself, and it's the purpose of social media really, and a lot of tech too. It's skewed itself so it kind of has a bit more power, a bit more control. So you just have to have your social media apps on your phone. You just have to have your email app open on your phone. You just have to. Because then there's this fear of missing out, and there's all these different things. People get annoyed when you don't. You think people get annoyed when you don't respond straight away.
Or like their picture.
You know how many times people been like, "You didn't like my picture." I just put it up. I'm like, I'm not looking at you here with me. I looked at my phone, sort of thing. And just a bit like, it's a bit strange. Everybody's algorithm's different, so again, it's the center of the world. You think that your algorithm is what everybody sees. It's not the same thing. It's a lot. I maintain this theory that we still don't know how to use social media properly as people. We don't fully. We're getting better as we go. We've been through ups and downs. It's been through all these kind of old tweets and old things and the slip ups that a lot of millennials have made and whatnot going forward. But it's about how we understand social media. It's developing consistently all the time. So I think that we don't really know how to use it properly at the minute. And there are some people that are drastic and just say, I'm just going to come off it completely. That's not always the answer for everybody, because that's how some people stay connected with people. So yeah, it's a huge balance. I don't know.
No, I think you've answered there. Emily, do you have any techniques or tools that people could leave here with, who maybe are realizing that they are on social media too much and it's having a significant impact on their mental well-being? What can people do beyond the drastic of just deleting everything? Some people can't. They literally can't. They have to be on Instagram or TikTok. What can people do if they have to use TikTok but use it in a way that's not significantly impacting their mental health?
It's about awareness, really. Monitoring yourself. So if you feel that, saying that though, sometimes people are not able, they don't have the capacity to recognize that they're doing on social media too much. But if you notice that it's going to interrupt your sleep, if you know maybe you've got an assignment and you're procrastinating with the assignment because you're constantly on TikTok, or you've had an appointment or you're supposed to meet people, and rather than meeting people you're online
scrolling Instagram and stuff,
so that's when you notice, okay, that's a red flag. You're on the social media too much. I'll speak from the child's perspective, because we have a lot of families that have come in to the point where I just developed a workshop to do with families and children about the safety of social media, because there are a lot of children who are going on social media, they're not regulated, they don't understand it fully, and they see things that are not reality, and they think that they are real. So they're seeing things which are encouraging things like suicide, like self-harm, things that they see, games on there that they see that are killing people, but they don't understand that, okay, because that doesn't have a permanency in real life, it does. And children are developing really negative behaviors. They're feeling bad about themselves because, again, if they haven't had the likes or if nobody's following them and so on, and it has a massive impact on their life. So I think if it's going to affect your behavior, if it's going to affect your choice where you're choosing social media over being social with people, then you need to recognize that something's not right there.
with Oculus and like the metaverse, people. I was listening to something about it the other day. Well, people's experience the other day, and I was thinking like, this has the ability to go two ways. The same way that when social media first came in, it has the ability to go one or two ways. People will either be social on there, and transfer all of that stuff and become somebody completely different on there. The same way you can do online, but again, it's the thing about knowing how to use these things. Should we be verifying people as human beings and particular people, that's very specifically who they are before they go on to these platforms, so that can then help with safety? Will they do that with virtual reality? It's like a wild west situation.
But the thing is, I think they're not pushing to do that because it's not going to sell, you know? They want people to be ambiguous. They want people to create another reality. But the danger of that is that they're living that reality. Then when they come back to, you know, real life, they're depressed, they're down, they're suicidal, you know, and I've seen so much of it, so much of it.
It's just Black Mirror, just
it's
gonna be.
But I would say the tips, timings. So just monitor your social media time.
You can do that on phones as well, can't you?
You can put a time on. You can set alarms as well.
Everyone just needs
that's your self-will. That's your will.
But that's another thing, because again, speak to someone, get someone to hold you accountable. You know, because sometimes I've been a victim of it. You know, TikTok is addictive. Like you're scrolling and you're like, oh, that's a good one, and even the music in the background, you're like, oh, I like that one. You listen to it over and over again instead of getting on with some work or going to sleep. So if you get someone to hold you accountable as well, to say, okay, I think it's time you put the phone down now, or come away from the screen, because it's just about monitoring and being responsible, holding yourself accountable as well.
Paul, let's talk about the working world now. You're an entrepreneur, and many people that I know in my circles during the pandemic quit their job. They said, "Chuck, I'm out. I'm out. Set up my own little business, do my own little thing." And they did that because they saw an opportunity. They might have A, been sacked, so they had no choice. But B, it might have been an opportunity to make themselves more happier, even if it meant taking a 30-40k reduction in their yearly salary. In your life, 'cause I know that you're a busy man doing many things, what are the things that cause you anxiety? And no one's perfect here, but how do you push back against those things and those times when you are feeling a bit like you've got to do the most and you're doing too much in your working world?
in terms of like being busy or like
so I know you do many things. Do you ever at times feel anxious that you have to continue to do those things and fulfill that? Do you ever feel that you are in a perpetual cycle of constantly having to work because you like working and the job that you do?
I think it's an interesting thought to have, to think you can do everything. And I don't believe that's the way forward. I used to be like that, so you know, I'll pretty much do everything, and then if I hire someone to do something, I'll be like,
Yeah.
you're doing that right now. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there's a trade-off that comes with allowing other people into your space to help do certain things, and the mental benefits versus the money, or even the investment. So I'll give you like very trivial examples, right? So before, I might be thinking in the evening, I'll be like, oh, I need to create Instagram post, you know? So I'm there on Canva just dragging. I don't know if you guys use Canva.
Yeah.
But now I just pay someone to do it. I just don't worry about it. And although it might cost you money, because Instagram is an investment, you don't know if you're going to get a return from, but that time I could focus on something completely, you know, like beneficial. I might be watching TV, I might be de-stressing. So what I've tried to do, like I was saying to Alex before, like 2 of my goals for this year is like consistency and automation. So anything that I can push off to somebody to do, let them do it. Whether it's hiring a PA or a virtual PA to handle your emails, that's one thing off your list. And I think just always a smarter way to go around doing things. Especially as like entrepreneurs, one thing we try to do is we think the hours we put in is what makes us like successful. Where it's not the hours, it's how smart you are with the time that you're you're working. And that smartness can come from many different ways. Automation tools, it could be a case where you're hiring someone to do what you should do. And it's an investment. Yeah, that's one. The second question you asked, I can touch on.
I was keen just to hear from someone that is busy and doing a lot. Do you ever at times get anxious? Because, I don't know, you ever get to a Friday evening and you're still emailing at 10:30
my anxiousness,
rather than
right?
being out having a drink with some friends and or a party, whatever.
You know what? Like, I've learned that, you know, not everyone gets to the destination, but you can enjoy the journey, right? If that makes sense. So you might not end up as Jeff Bezos, but the journey, you know, the friends that you meet, the memories that you make, the customers that you impact, that's where the fun lies. Especially now that I've been lucky enough to speak to a lot of different successful people. A lot of the fears that we have on the rise, they sort of still have it sometimes. So that we think, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, I'm not that. They're millionaires looking at Jeff Bezos thinking, oh, I haven't got 100. It doesn't end. What ends is what you can do within your stratosphere to change that mindset. So for me, I used to put a bit of pressure on myself. Oh yeah, I'm turning this age soon. I ain't done this, I ain't done that. And then a friend said to me, I'll give you this analogy and you guys can let me know what you think. A friend said to me, when you're going to the gym to lose weight, right, or build muscle or whatever it is, right, you set your goal, I want to lose weight, and then you kind of forget about the goal. You focus on your day-to-day things, right? You're not worrying about when it comes, how it comes. Not every day you're thinking, oh, I need to lose weight, I need to lose weight, I need to lose weight. That gives you unnecessary stress, right? Instead, you focus on, oh, I might have a little bit of donut here, just a small bit. I might balance this, I might work out a bit more. You're focused on what you can do and what's in your control. So that way of thinking is what doesn't really give me anxiety anymore, should I say. Not before, like I go through like cycles, you know, and especially as you're getting older, you start worrying to some extent. But then again, all you can do is what you can do. And that brings the power away from the external and brings it back to you. And that should empower you to some extent. That's how I see it. Yeah.
I'm glad you said about the cycles, because that is definitely me. And when you said about doing everything yourself, and then when you give the job to someone else to do and you're watching over them, I'm still going through that process. But I do many different things, like the workshops, working in schools, doing the private counselling, doing online sessions and so on. And I was doing it all by myself. When I got a team of people who are just lovely and skilled and amazing, at first I was watching over and still putting myself through that work, but now I can just sit back and it's a lovely space to be in, to know that you can just grow yourself, but then everyone you bring in grows around you, and we're just growing together. But it's really nice to know that you can delegate and have a team around you, and it's less stressful.
Just in case you can't do that, because some people, I do my own stuff, but just in case you can't delegate, I've just taken to outlining what your focuses are, and then kind of doing one thing a day. Like, because the thing is, that's the thing about socials as well. You're trying to do, your brain is kind of fractured in so many different places. I think what kind of has really helped me in the past few weeks is just say, I want to do this today, this tomorrow, that
pace,
way.
Man.
And then it means that all that pressure is off, because I just know that I'm doing this one thing today, and then it's focused. And then, like what you said about automation, if you can use one of those days to then do the automation, make sure everything's going, it takes the pressure off, because you know that you're just doing that for the week. Well, you're doing that for the day, but then for the week to kind of schedule out your stuff or whatever. Everything goes at your own pace. Like, nobody is out here trying to push you in that way. So yeah.
I want to get to a couple more things, and we've got a lot of questions that people sent in before this evening. But your last answer there, Paul, resonates with me a lot, because I take from that being present more. I'm really bad at being present, really bad. So I'm here hosting this fantastic event now, But I'm thinking about the fact that I've got another team doing a production right as we speak somewhere else. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, did she bring the right lens, and did he bring the right? That's just how I'm wired. It's really, really bad. So I think to both of what you're saying there about just doing one thing at a time, just focus on what you can focus on right now.
I think understand what you can control.
Yeah, controllables.
Like I have a friend, and a lot of the convo is what if. Like what if, and what if is just a very interesting statement, because
It's always a negative.
yeah, you're worrying about things that the likeliness of them happening is just
Slim.
you know, you over, like one of my quotes is, you know, over prepare, like I over prepare for everything.
I do that.
Right? After you over prepare, what else can I do?
It's true. It's true.
You just gotta let go. So yeah, that what if talk, like what if this happens, what if there's, like your mind's always firing. And it's not what if I win $1 million, it's always
something bad.
it's true. You know,
I want to ask that. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on the issues around black men in particular and them not talking. What can men, and specifically black men, do more to have those conversations and just ask the question, Alex, how are you? And it to be authentic and not to get a weird look like, why are you asking me how I am? How can men be better at breaking the ice of just trying to connect on a level that gets them to understand how their friend, their brother, their cousin, whoever it may be, is genuinely feeling, and it not be awkward or weird?
That's a big question.
A massive question.
But my thing is lead by example. If I go to another man or whoever and ask them, are you okay? How are you doing? I'm demonstrating that it's okay to ask that question and generally have concern for that person. So if they can see that that is okay, then it might not be the first, they might not be like divulging everything to you or whatever, but if you have to lead in the way that you want to be kind of treated, or that you know help. It's not a matter of what can they do, it's about what can you do to kind of really just. So I will take myself and be like, I'm going to go to people and start speaking and opening those conversations. Let them know that it's okay. There are issues around trust. There are issues around safety and that stuff. Will the information that is shared stay with the person? I don't know that. All of that stuff. So leading by example is one thing. And I say that's the most important, to be honest.
Let me ask you, Paul, as a black man, do you, in your circles of other black men, are you open about how you feel, or is it still something that you think is a bit of a taboo and it's a bit of a non-spoken? Just asking someone, you know, right, John, I know John's a random name, but right, John, how are you feeling today? How are you doing? Is everything okay?
I think different friendship groups are different. In my group of friends, it starts with each person. Like a lot of it starts with me, for example. So I think one thing I've found is people are very attentive to the little things, right? So I'll give you an example. I've never been good at, like, if I banter with a friend, we banter positively. This is gonna sound funny, but you know, certain people go, oh, you waste man, all that stuff. I don't tolerate that, like, at all, right? Because if you start bantering your friend about something, and let's say it's something they might be insecure about, when it's time to come with a serious conversation about something that's bothering them, who are they going to turn to? Are they going to turn to the friend that will take something you say today and that's banter tomorrow for the little thing they did, whether they put ketchup the wrong way on their chips? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it all starts with how people interact over the little things for them to know that I can trust this person enough to tell them the big things.
The safety.
Exactly. But it's not something we say, it's inbuilt into how people act. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, like our friendship group, or my friendship groups, were like that, where we speak about everything anyway, because I'll never turn around to them around tomorrow and say something mad. You know what I mean? So I think I guess the lesson there, what I'm trying to say is that for us to have those big, deep conversations sometimes, we should be very mindful with how we respond to the little things, because that's how you know how someone would do, or how someone would deal with the bigger things. And that's something that I've just found as a consistent trend pretty much all my life.
I'm over time, but I want to ask one more question before we get to Q&As from anybody who's got a question. Stick with you, Paul. Consumption of what we eat and drink. I know this is an area that I follow you on Instagram. I see you drinking stuff that looks nasty, but I know that probably is the most healthiest thing on the planet.
Herbs, guys.
Yeah. But I'm like, yo, I don't look too good.
It doesn't look like urine sometimes.
It looks horrible, but I know that it's something healthy.
It's not. That's the question.
What are the things that people can change without making drastic diet change, all this keto stuff that people do now? What are the small things that people can do that doesn't cost a lot, doesn't take a lot of time to prepare, that can have a significant impact on their health, their mental health, and their well-being?
I think a few simple things. She spoke about meditation, essential oils and things, aromatic oils. But also, like, I'm big on herbs, like not actual. Just to put it out there. Yeah. I'm big on like herbs and returning to nature for some of our answers. And what's happening today is that the scientific community is now showing the evidence of things that our forefathers have known, foremothers have known for millennia. So I would incorporate herbs like adaptogenic herbs into my diet. You might hear people speak about ashwagandha, macaroon, nettle, and even like sleep-wise. I think because we see it in the shop, we don't understand how powerful stuff like chamomile is as a basic thing you can start with. Lemon, ginger, valerian root, blue vervain, skullcap.
You went from chamomile.
I'm just putting it out there. I see big man taking notes in this, so I'm just quick so you can Google it. But I'm a big believer in that, in a sense of utilizing these herbs to balance the body and bring about calm.
Return to the natural world.
And we're so connected. This is the thing. We're connected to the earth. So it's about bringing it back. We do a lot of grounding work as well, which is just so rejuvenating. Just going for a walk, spending time with nature. Spending time with nature is so healing.
It's deeper than we can imagine. Just that reconnection. The park. If you're lucky to be around a park, that's your
so much there.
When I started doing forest walks, I was like, wow, how come I didn't discover this before? It's just amazing how you can get healing from I know.
It's concrete.
I have to go far to find a park.
I'm going to wrap up in a bit by asking you all one thing that everyone here and watching can do that you think would improve their mental health and their well-being. Are there any questions from anybody in the crowd here today? Like, I've got some from someone. Can we get a mic to Mummy at the front here?
I have two questions.
We're going to get a mic to you.
Oh, okay. Hello?
They can hear you on the street, but
they can hear. Yeah, I want to ask you a question. It's regarding the sleep. Yeah, how do you prepare and get ready to sleep? Because really, sometimes you could go to bed and you fighting that sleep to come, and it ain't coming from nowhere, and the sun is coming up and you still haven't got that sleep yet. So how do you prepare yourself for bed ready to get to sleep? And also, is it a good idea to say, if you feel tired in the afternoon, to have a quick nap?
Just in case people didn't see it hear it on the stream, the questions were, how do you get to sleep when you're struggling, and do you recommend afternoon naps?
And a lot of it starts with our body clock, right? And our body clock is regulated by lights. And one big sleep killer that not a lot of us are aware of is lights. So what we're doing before bed, some of us are watching TV. Some of us are on our phones.
I'm on the phone, but I'm looking at the questions coming in, so I'm allowed.
Some of us are on our phones, and what sometimes this light does, so like melatonin formation starts to peak in the night time. What this light does, sometimes it tricks us to thinking it's daytime. So like, see that white light there? They call it junk light. It's like lights that radiate a more deeper hue of blue. Because that's what is, I guess, transmitted from the sun. So it makes our body think, oh, it's still daytime, keep keep your energy up. So when you're lying in bed, your brain's just jumping. So I guess little things that we can do off that, right, to prepare for bed is some people do like a no technology hour. You know, I always recommend everyone get a lamp, like something mood lamp, like an orangey lamp like this. It kind of just tells the body, all right, it's time to cool down. It's time to start relaxing and start getting ready for bed, right? So if you have to use your phone, you can use your phone on night mode. It's like a functionality on your phones that turns it from blue to orange. On your laptop, you can install software that turns it from that blue hue to orange, allowing you to start calming down in the evenings. So the first thing is lights, is what I'll be mindful of, but also preparing for bed, right? Preparing for bed and trying to sleep at the same time each day. Same time and wake up around similar times. That is you now sleeping with your own natural rhythm. In terms of naps, I'm not against naps. I think each individual do what's best for you, but I'll be very mindful about the timing. Because if you take a 4-hour nap in the daytime,
Is that a nap? Is that
in the evening,
Sometimes that sleep just comes out of nowhere. I can't even like.
I think sometimes what I've found with people is if you feel like you want to take a nap and it's late, it's sometimes better to kind of just hold it to a reasonable hour. You're talking like 9, 10. I met a guy the other day, he said he sleeps at 7. I said, you know what I mean? But he probably knows something about himself and what works well for his body. So I think that experimenting could help. Other tips for sleep is the candle. The candle helps. You know, even meditating during sleep or during whilst you're lying down. So like I have people message me sometimes, oh Paul, I can't sleep. And I tell them, it's very hard to sleep with your eyes open. For you to text me. Do you know what I mean? So in that time, like you can practice some different sorts of meditation routines. Like one that I like is just kind of picturing yourself doing things. You know, whether you're picturing yourself as like a giant walking around outside your house, little things like that just helps to center the mind, especially if you're a warrior. And then I also take like these adaptogenic herbs, you know, like it helps just bring down that cortisol level that could be impacting your sleep. You know, your stress levels, that negative spiral again, stress impacting sleep. I know he's nodding now. It's too long of an answer.
No. I'll just go quite through. I want to try and get as many as possible. Does that help?
Helpful, yeah.
Okay.
But I have a question for him as well.
Oh wow.
When do you know you're ready for counseling? Because really, you could be your brain going haywire, you can't relax, you can't chill, and you think you need counseling, and you go in that counseling room, and you end up being in the psychiatric ward. So when do you know you're ready for counseling?
When do you know you're ready for counseling? A part of me wants to say you will know, but that's not a good answer. I think that, as I said, like when you start to see certain patterns happening in your life and things don't seem to be, I don't like the word functioning, but it's the word for today, functioning in your life, your relation, like when I say your relationships, I mean the way that we are communicating with another. If you're consistently in arguments, if your perception of things doesn't add up to the way that people are kind of saying to you it is, and you're starting to look around and it doesn't line up, I would say it's probably a signifier to say that's kind of when you need to start looking at counseling and probably having some inner introspective sort of time. You know, I think when your mood is low, but when it's low to a point, I go back to the functioning question, when it's to the point that you cannot function properly, when you can be in low mood, but then there's depressive mood, which is a very different kind of experience. You can be, there's a feeling of anxiety, and then there's you being anxious. Very different kind of things. I feel like you will know when something is kind of not right, and I feel like people will tell you to not tell you that you need to go to therapy, but also there will be signals as to how you're acting isn't aligning with kind of the way that you usually are or stuff. You're kind of acting outside of who you are in a way. I think there's many like little things that happen. It's different for everybody. That's why it's hard to answer, I think. But yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any more questions here? We have one at the back.
Can you hear me? Oh, it's for that.
It's for the street. Yeah.
So this question is for really anyone who feels like they might have the answer. How do you deal with racism in the workplace that could never really be explained to people in the workplace because they don't get it? So you have to deal with it somehow each time in your head, but then when you become really resentful, like how do you not become resentful and find a happy place?
Looking directly at me, that was my exact story. I left. I just said I'm out. It's not an option for a lot of people. It took me a while, but I realized it wasn't allowing me to do my job effectively. I was producing subpar. I was a journalist, so I was producing subpar work, spelling mistakes, typos, things happening, and then it just became a thing of they were judging me based on that as well. So it's kind of another thing, rather than actually asking what's going on and whatnot. When I brought these things up, I wasn't necessarily listened to, so I had to leave, or else I wouldn't be able to kind of function elsewhere. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Because the thing is, I've had a number of clients who have come with the same experiences, and I myself have been in employment where I've experienced the same thing. The space that I was in, I started to speak about it. I had conversations with one person at a time, and when there were those little moments of that unconscious bias where their behavior is, I guess, so a lot of the people I interacted with didn't recognize that their behavior was having an impact on me, and that it was related to my race, because we all grow up by experience, and if our parents and our grandparents have acted a certain way, then we act that same way and think that it's okay. So when somebody wanted to fill my hair, or when comments are made if I change my hairstyle on a daily basis, or
asking if you've been stopped and searched before.
Oh gosh.
Or figuring out that you're paid less.
Yeah. Or even the way you dress. If you come in and you're wearing cloth one day and it's like, oh my gosh, And
I think it's a really good question, because I think, what do you do if you are black and you're the only black person in your organization, and trying to explain to somebody that what's happened is racist, but it's hard to explain that. So trying to tell someone that you touching my hair, there's racism rooted in that. You commenting on my exotic food at lunchtime in the microwave, that's a form of
nice.
What's that?
What
Chicken. That is a form of racism. And there's a way of complimenting someone's food or someone's hair, but how do you explain to a group of people you're working with who are not black that what you said to me, what you did, what happened yesterday, that was racist? How do you do that?
It's difficult, but like I said, with myself, only because I had experienced it in my prior work, then when I went to the next one and experienced the same thing, I said, I'm not going through that again. I did the same thing in my prior work, I left. But then in the next situation, I started having individual conversations, and I took it to HR, and I took it further, so that you're then noticed. And I ended up becoming an advocate, because I'm a black woman and I'm disabled. So I was the advocate for all of that, and they started to become more aware and recognize behaviors, and changes were made. Small changes, but changes were made. But then if there's nothing there that you can do, there's agencies outside of your workplace that you can go and seek help as well. So it's always about trying to find other avenues, people you can talk to, people who can relate and understand, and then maybe coming in numbers rather than just feeling isolated, because it is difficult. It is.
I've had a little bit of experience, I wouldn't say crazy amounts, but the little that I've learned, so I worked as an analyst at one point, and I was one of 3 black people out of like 800. Interesting time. I was living in Chorley, and that's just I don't know if anyone knows.
See, I don't even know where that is.
Sure,
None of us
yeah,
know.
at that point. Yeah. So one thing what worked well for me compared, like my friend had a completely different experience. What worked well for me, and I didn't have much problems after that, was I didn't let nothing slide.
You called it all out.
Either at that point, or I just like, oh, let's go out for dinner, or and I'll talk to you about it on a one-to-one basis, because what happens is if you let things dwell in your head, like it just gets worse and worse, and especially if you're new, sometimes everyone's just testing you to see what your reaction will be. So there might be, say, a small joke, you know, and that's just a precursor to, oh, is that chocolate?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Also, you normalise and you think to yourself, was
Yeah.
that racist? No, that was racist, actually.
But if you have to ask the question, you should have the conversation, because sometimes people just, I want to say it's ignorance, but people just don't know, right? They don't know that what they're doing to you is affecting you, right? So I think anytime, no matter how little, even now, generally speaking, I just don't.
If I was to go back into, I always think to myself, if I was to go back into work now, my response back then was definitely flight.
What do you mean flight?
Flight, as in I left.
Fight, flight.
things.
Oh yeah.
I would definitely be fighting in all of these.
On a
things.
one-to-one basis, though,
I would be like, don't ask me those questions.
We are always defensive in groups.
Yeah.
So like, if let's say all of us are here, and you say something crazy, my first reaction, we want to say something, but I might just have to educate you on a one-to-one basis to stop you coming to me on a defensive level. Oh, I didn't mean it like that. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think always
Yeah,
never let nothing
deeper
slide.
investigation.
Communication
asking why.
is key.
Always, because it just gets worse, and you start seeing more things, because it's like, you know what I mean? You start getting paranoid. I've seen what it does to people. It's not fun at all.
Do you have any more questions from here? Yes, like the front, please.
Thank you first. It was a really interesting discussion. I feel like a lot of the time conversations around mental health and well-being and wellness, the force or the driving, like the goal is more productivity, which actually can end up being toxic when it's like, this is just be more productive. How can people reframe that kind of goal to just existing peacefully, rather than always being around being productive and producing more and being, you know, which is kind of capitalist, just focusing more on existing happily?
I think
Slow down. I think slow down and start to think about the things that you want and actively go out and pursue those. Because the other things, when you say productive, I'm imagining you're talking about work and other things like that. I mean, yeah, I think the way that, I think what we've learned from the pandemic is that a lot of systems in working didn't work. And I think that when everybody had to go work at home or spend more time away from the office, it just showed that it just wasn't a functional system. My whole thing has just been about slowing down. Like, you've had your words this year, Paul. My words are it's just literally ease. I'm just trying to make sure that I can kind of get what I need to get done without any added stress to that stuff, because tapping out of that mindset of having to be productive all the time, especially if you work for yourself, you don't always get the returns in the same way, and you have to think about what you're losing as well, with regards to time and for your own personal things that you need and for your own resources. If you don't prioritize what you want, everything else will take priority in you. So I'm like, slow down and then figure out what you want. That helped me.
Any more questions, guys? Yes, lady in the middle row.
Thank you. Yes, very good conversation tonight. One of the key things I think is problematic in this country at the moment is accessing, therapy and assistance with mental health, especially with children. And I've worked with kids, and I've worked in the coroner's court, and unfortunately I've come across cases, suicide cases and stuff, especially with kids. And one of the problems that kept reoccurring was either the children or parents found it hard to access help for these children, or the help that they got, like I think from camps, they didn't find very helpful because it's structured in such a specific way. what can be done to sort of speak to GPs and doctors to sort of access your sort of therapy and things like that? Do you think?
I find for myself, for my practice, and like I said, the whole reason why I set up my practice in the first place, my main thought process was accessibility. So the way in which we work, we have a tiered system, and we have a full price, we have a reduced price, we have a donation, and then we have free. And I find that there are so many families and individuals who are trying to access the services and can't, whether it's because of the waiting list, whether it's because of the stigma around getting therapy, because what I found is we have a number of people who come to my service because they want to have, I guess, people who they can relate to. And when you are going through the GP service or through the NHS, there are not a lot of black therapists or people of colour who are within those fields and who are accessible. And with my team, when I first built up my team and how I started, we do have a full black team. We're now incorporating everybody, but the fact that our core is like that, we have a number of people and families who come to us because they do want that connection, they want that understanding, they want an organisation to have that cultural competency, and we have that. But at the same time, they want the affordability. There are people who have said they've been waiting for therapy for 6 years plus, and they haven't accessed it because they can't afford it. The waiting list on the GP system, they'll be waiting for more than 6 years. And I couldn't believe it, which is why a lot of people do end up at the extremes. So so I feel with accessibility, if they can afford to come now, because it's free, you can come, you will receive the same service as the person who's paying full price. And the fact that we have that balance, that's why we're able to maintain it. And a bit like yourself, I have my hand in many hats. So the work that I do in other places pays well, the workshops I do pay well, so I'm able to run my practice and give back, you know. So it's about giving that opportunity of accessing therapy to everybody. Yeah.
I'm just going to run through a few questions that have been sent in. Forgive me, I'm not going to ask them all, but the ones that I think have been answered already, I'll skip past those ones. We've got one here that's asking, how do you maintain a healthy mindset during the early stages of a business? We'll come to the two of you. You know, like 30 seconds.
For me, I was always bad with time management.
Okay.
So doing a planner really helped me, setting goals, and like you said, doing things one step at a time. My favourite phrase is baby steps. And you still are able to enjoy the journey. You get to the same end, but you do it assertively and by looking after yourself. Slow but steady. Yeah, so I take the role of the turtle.
Nice.
And it works.
Yeah. And Paul, what would your advice be to someone who's trying to maintain a positive mindset whilst we know how stressful it can be starting a business in that early stages where we know most businesses in the first year don't make any money, even go under? What would your advice be to trying to just maintaining a positive mental state at a time when it can be very stressful?
It's just mirroring what Emily said and Alex. It's just about, it's okay to take breaks, you know, spend time with your loved ones, have a hobby, go gym, you know, like work is always going to be there. Yeah.
Okay. Nathaniel in the front row, I'll wrap with you because you sent the question and you turned up as well. Well, it's more of a comment than a question. Do you want to just read out what you sent in, just as a do you remember what you said? I can read it out. It wasn't a question. I'm the co-founder of Swim Dem Crew, a creative community in London that changes what swimming pools look like with each session we run. We have been running for 9 years and are seeking partners to collaborate on events and support our new ongoing projects across swimming pools and wild swim locations. Now, someone that can't swim, I'm scared of the water, how would swimming help me have a positive mindset and better mental health, if indeed it does?
I definitely say it does contribute to or it can contribute to overall like improved mental well-being. Reason being because we find with people when they come to our lessons, our adult lessons are just for black people and other people of colour. So you have the cultural competency again from myself and my fellow teachers. And then another thing I think is if you can achieve something like learning how to swim, then you can apply that to other parts of your life. Swimming's a really hard sport to one, make cool, like some of them did, and two, kind of throw yourself into, because as an adult that can't swim or has fear of the water, you have to do something at least once a week that's going to make you feel weak, embarrassed, tired, silly, until at a certain point where it clicks and you suddenly get it and you can start floating and then swimming and kicking and breathing. So I think it just teaches, we use the swimming as like a metaphor. If you can learn how to do this, then think about what else could come into your life. And yeah, if people can do that, then in like a nice way, I can do anything.
So it's very relaxing.
Not for me.
I'm a water baby, so I find it very therapeutic to swim.
When your whole body is just tired from swimming, that's such a good feeling.
Not me, but I might come by actually because I would like to overcome my. I've had lessons 3 times and I was 8, 14 and 26. And
you're like 27 now. You're good, man.
I'm trying.
The thing is, you need to address what's making you scared in the first place.
Just push him in.
I wouldn't have anxiety at all. Listen, guys, thanks for coming up tonight. I really appreciate your time. Hopefully, there's something you can take away this evening that will help you improve your mental health and well-being. A quick plug to our website, blakademik.com, spelled that way. On my t-shirt and on my cue cards there. Check out our website. We're across all the socials. Become a member. It's free. Can we get some love, please, for Paul, Emily, and Alex first? Thanks for coming out and get home safe. Thank you very much. Cheers.
You know, many people love that every time I wear this jumper out.
Oh, me too. I know.
They're like, what up?